Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Nashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. Yep, we're still in your transition area where we will not ignore these hills or the heat. That's really a metaphor for something else, but I know you get it. We're going to acknowledge them, we're going to adjust our pace, and we're going to keep moving forward. My goal here is to provide joyful, insightful content that makes you want to keep training, even when the world outside feels chaotic. So this space is for us to decompress so we're not distracted. We're not going to turn a blind eye to reality, but we are choosing not to let it drain our batteries. We're going to control the controllables. We can't fix the entire world, but we can control our effort, our kindness, and our community. We're going to fuel the fire. And how do we do that? Because I'm providing you some good stories that will help to keep you encouraged to cross your personal finish lines, get your personal PRs, regardless of what's happening on the sideline. I feel like this is a moment to say, let's try this. That's right. My guest today knows exactly what it looks like to love the sport, and not just for a season, but for a lifetime. To find it early, to lose it for a little while, but to come back stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before. My guest has been in triathlon long enough to see it evolve, grow, transform, and she has grown alongside it. She got started in the sport in 1990, lining up in Chicago before most people even knew what triathlon was. From there, she became a fixture in the Northeast racing scene, showing up year after year, building relationships with the sport that most people never get to experience. And then one of the most defining transitions of all, motherhood, took her away from the sport from a little bit. But like many women, she stepped away. She found her rhythm again with running, with 5Ks and marathons during that season, but pouring herself into her family. But something about triathlon never left. And when she returned with such intention. She stepped into the long course stage, completing her first Ironman in 2010, and kept going with the kind of quiet confidence that only comes from experience. But that's just where the story expands. She didn't just come back from herself. She became a coach, a race director, and a mentor to beginners, a steady presence in sport that can feel like anything but steady. But when you're starting out, she was there. And throughout her work with USA Triathlon, she has helped shape the sport and what it looks like at a national level. She is still out there competing as a part of the DC Tri Club elite team, living this sport in real time. So I'm excited that this conversation today is going to be a little bit about timing, about making those comebacks, and what it means to stay connected to something even when your life pulls you in several different directions. Additionally, we'll talk about the kind of impact that doesn't always make the headlines, but changes you all the same. This is a special Mother's Day episode in honor of all the moms out there who try, the moms who have kids that try, and the moms who want to even try one day. It is my pleasure and an honor to welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck audience, Mrs. Leslie Knibb. Leslie, welcome to Try Beginner's Luck. How you feeling?
I am feeling great. Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction. I'm dying to find out about some of the things you sort of led us to the edge of and didn't describe completely. Am I going to help with that?
Of course. This is all about you. It's all about you. It's your story. And what I did was just pull out some pieces to give people an insight into who you are. Like, I didn't know. And I've seen you on the race circuit for a while, that you got started in 1990.
Were you even born then?
Oh, look at you, Leslie. You've become my new best friend, girl. Thank
No,
you.
don't tell us your age. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah,
I was
long time.
well and born. I had
Yeah.
been here a decade by the 90s.
We'll leave it at
I was
that.
here.
Yep. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
So I know. So 1990s Chicago, what was that like? Where were you in your life at this time?
So I took a job out of college with Four Seasons Hotels. I worked on property in Chicago for 2.5 years. I went to New York City for 2.5 years. And then Four Seasons was opening the Four Seasons Chicago. And they invited me back as director of sales. And so I went back there. It was super exciting to open a hotel, and the hotel business is huge because you hope that you're opening it and it never ever closes. And it's still going. So I take no credit for that. Um, but I had just moved back and I started dating a guy who was very into triathlon and he wanted me to do it too. I swam growing up and I was running some, but I went and bought a bike and we did I think it was either the Mrs. T's or the Sun Times triathlon then in Chicago. Yeah, and I was hooked. And I beat him and he broke up with me. So instead of dating him, I dated triathlon. So yeah, that's a
Oh
true
my
story.
goodness.
Yeah. So funny. I mean, good for him. He knew that
So,
he couldn't handle it. Like he was showing me the ropes of triathlon. I am forever grateful to him. But yeah, and he was a nice guy. I didn't realize his ego could be so easily bruised, but it was. Yeah, so that was fun.
I think a lot of people can resonate with that story. Number one, about, someone introducing you to sport and then their ego is bruised when you happen to perform a little better than them. But Liz Collar, who is the director of constituent services a few weeks ago, had a very similar story where someone introduced her boyfriend introduced her to sport, and it didn't work out. So, but here she is still here in sport. And so it's beautiful to see how we all have a very unique start, and some of us have very similar starts. Um, but the common thread is that you still show up and you're still here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though, I feel fortunate especially, and I know people talk about the culture of triathlon, but it really is unique. You know, in swimming it's wonderful in a different way, and in running, you show up at a road race and you're you often come with friends or you run into friends, not literally, but but it's not as much a community as like I still remember going to the transition area. And I think the Chicago Triathlon is still one of the largest. And like so many people were excited for me doing my first triathlon. And then all around, everybody's sort of commiserating. What did they forget? What are they going to do? What's the mishap of that morning? And it's just like immediately, it's just, everybody's vulnerable and excited and just putting it all out there. It was fantastic. Yeah. And it continues to be. I feel like there's still, I don't know where it comes from, but the spirit of triathlon is magical. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, I do, which is why I haven't stopped, even though I've had my share of my love-hate relationship with the sport. It's something very beautiful about, hitting reset and starting again and being able to challenge yourself in ways that you wouldn't have thought imaginable. And when
Yeah.
everything does click and it's great, it's like, wow, I did that. And being able to do it over and over again. And so I've often said that I want to keep doing this sport until I can't,
Oh, I agree
whatever
100%.
that looks like.
Yeah. I also feel like, and maybe it's true for any sport, but particularly like I can still remember sort of the aftermath or the finish line of my first Ironman. And I mean, just because it was so long, you have no idea, how am I going to feel at hour 5, 6, 7, 8, and am I going to make it through the day? Is this going to work? And I just, I trained so hard and went to this camp beforehand and everything. But you finish and you've discovered parts of yourself that you never knew existed, like strength that you never knew you had, resilience. And you're like, wow, like getting through it. And I don't want to belittle anybody else in like a job that offers that, or like the military, but for the layperson, to like, that's the beauty of sport, is the self-discovery. Like, I never knew, like, we get that opportunity to discover parts of us that we didn't even know were there, and you cross the line and you're like, oh my god. Like, and for me anyway, my big takeaway from my first Ironman was, I think that if you set your mind to do something and you prepare, like, the sky's the limit.
Okay, we're going to talk about two first, and we're going to try to do them in parallel. Your first in Chicago, when people were just so excited to see you. Take us back to that day, getting there, the swim, transition T1, the bike, T2, and the run. And then go into the years between you first starting in 1990 to 2010, right? Because there was
Mm.
some years in between that you still were doing triathlons. You learned a little bit, and then you came back and did your first Ironman. So I want people to hear about your very first race, and then take us through the journey to your very first Ironman distance race.
Oh wow. So the very first race, I remember Christopher taking me down there and escorting me to my transition area, and then he was in a different part. So, you're surrounded by people, nervous, getting ready. Everybody's sort of sizing each other up, right? But not in a judgmental way. It's more an accepting, like, we talk about how people want to be seen and heard. Like, maybe that's part of it. Like, everybody just saw each other, like, and we were in this together. I mean, what do they call that? Like, universality, that you're not alone, that we're all in the same boat. And then, oh, and then, so then we went to the start. I mean, it's a lot of people, so it was sort of a rolling start. And you swim in Lake Michigan, and you go along the shoreline, and then take this U-turn, and you end up in the harbor. And it's still Chicago, right? It's a city, and I remember like swimming, and that some people are faster than you, some are slow, and then there was like, all of a sudden there was this diversion around. It was like a big, like one of those dividers in a highway, and it was a trash can under the water. Like like Michigan at Lakeshore Drive is not so deep, but anyway, everyone was going around that. And then, I mean, I won't bore you with the whole race. It was fantastic. Like, the bike part was great, and then running felt good. You run past, the aquarium and everything. But one of my clear memories was then, that was on a Sunday, and the next day I went to work, and the director of housekeeping came in to my office. I know it was Alan. I can't remember his last name. And he's holding the newspaper, and he's like, "You're in the newspaper." And I said, "I am? Uh-oh." And he said, "Yeah, you came in, it was like 15th or 16th or something in the whole race. And like, McKeely Jones won it." And I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're in the list." I mean, the list must have gone to like 30 or 50 or something, but I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea. But he was so excited for me. Like, but the funny thing is, I go back and I'm like, number one, you're supposed to be leading housekeeping. Why are you reading the newspaper? No, just kidding. But also that he went down the list. I mean, at that time, it was, the female pros. I can't even, like, I know McKeely Jones won, but But then he saw my name and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to go to her office and tell her." It was just so cute and such a nice surprise. And then I just went right back to work. Like to me, that didn't, I knew I finished. I was happy I finished. I was sad my boyfriend broke up with me, but it was all like just, yeah, it was fun. It was good. Um, and then I moved to New York in 1992, uh, like summer of 92, I think it was. I took a different job with a different hotel group. And, um, and then in New York, somebody introduced me to in Central Park. It's called CRCA. It's the Century Road Cycling Association. There's U.S. gold medalist Christian Faulkner raced for CRCA when she was in New York. And also, fun fact, Vic Broomfield, the CEO of USAT, and Catherine, our legal counsel or general counsel, Murtaugh, they both rode in CRCA also, and it's a cycling club that races around Central Park, and the Central Park Loop is like 6 miles. But yeah, anyway, so I started cycling and I loved it. I did that for 4 years, and then I went to work for the National Basketball Association. And I had an office in Secaucus, New Jersey, where the studios were. I was director of events, and so there was no way I was riding or doing any of that anymore. It was a 24/7 job. And then during that time, I got married, and then got pregnant with my first child, um, and and then we moved to Washington D.C. Um, but eventually, in Washington, I did a lot of running, and then started getting back into triathlon. Yeah, and then do you want me to go to 2010? Is that what?
Well, I want to pause for just a second because you mentioned a lot of things in that, but it's so good because I'm like sitting here mesmerized by the story. Like, wow, like
I thought you were
you didn't
falling
know that you
asleep.
were that. No, I'm not falling asleep, Leslie.
I
No,
wouldn't blame you.
but 15 and
It
McKeely
was
Jones, like
something
you're
like that.
mentioning these, you're like name dropping, like just McKeely was first and I was 15th. Like that's incredible, and your first time.
Yeah, no, it's in retrospect, holy moly, right? But at the time, I'm like, poor McKeely, she misspelled her name, right? Michelle. But also I had no idea. I had no context. Like I had nothing relevant to that to even compare it to, right? I hadn't been in a newspaper before. Yeah, but it was fun. It
Wow.
was, yeah. So,
Yes, Victoria has been on the podcast before, and we know that she's an avid cyclist and has like 7 bikes.
oh wow.
And also, director of legal. She's the legal director. You mentioned her name.
Catherine Murtaugh.
Catherine, yes.
Yeah, she's
She's
wonderful.
fantastic. She's been traveling the world doing triathlons lately.
Yeah.
Um, what I find interesting is you've always been active.
Hmm.
And so, when did you realize, and this might be moving a little too far ahead, that you were good? Like, when did you realize, okay, I have a thing, I'm fast? You played soccer and you swam when you were growing up,
Hmm.
but riding a bike, when did you learn how to race bikes? Like, I'm just curious about all of these things.
So that's funny. I would say that only recently have I really paid attention to anything. you know, like I just like life goes on. I've watched this interview, and this woman was saying, well, we need to learn to trust our intuition. And she went through the reasons why and the basis of intuition. And she said, you have to consider things and then follow your gut. And I thought, oh, that's sort of backwards for me. Like, I mean, when I was with Four Seasons and there was a spot opening up in New York, I put my hand up. Like, I didn't think, oh, wait, what if this doesn't work? Like, I'm going all the way to New York. Like, I just like, pick me, please. And then in New York, when they're like, please come back to Chicago and help us do that, of course, I'd happy, like, I don't think I thought things through that much in forward, like thinking ahead, or in retrospect. Life gets busy and you just keep going, right? Like, especially then once I had kids, like, I was not focused on me, I was focused on them. And I know, I mean, there's no better metaphor than put your mask on first before you take care of others. But, when you're busy and taking care of stuff and, and your things are moving 100 different ways and you want to make them the most important thing and focus on them, yeah, I don't know, you just do what you feel like you should do. Or that's how I mean, live my mindless, how it's mindfulness is so trendy.
Very
That's new to
trendy.
me.
Oh, being mindful. Let's think about this. I,
Yeah.
there's some similarities that I know several people possess, including myself, about just doing it, and you think about it later and you're like, oh, okay, I didn't think it through. I just said yes. Has that always been your like personality? You do and think afterwards?
Well, even sometimes not that, but yeah, I think that recently, like, especially I'm in my 60s now, I have time to pause and sort of, what's the phrase, take stock. And I realize, like, one, how incredibly fortunate I've been, but two, like, wow, like, I think I'm optimistic. And a friend brought me this journal, and each morning, one of the journal's prompts is, "What is your mood today?" And I would guess now I probably have like 2 months. And every morning it's like good, optimistic. Like maybe there's one day in there not so good or nervous, but even then, like nervous. Like this morning, I was nervous to speak with you, but I know that's also exciting, right? And as an old person now, um, I recognize the value in like doing things outside of your comfort zone. Like it's the only way you're going to keep growing. Like I need to try things. I need to try things that I'm not sure I can do. But to your point and your question, I think like I think that if I didn't think that, then I could do it, right? You have no hesitations.
Right.
You're not thinking of what won't work. You're just thinking, and maybe that's part of it. I didn't give myself that option. I'm going to make this work one way or another, and maybe
Mhm.
not the first round, but yeah, I mean, then, it's sort of that, what is it, an adage like, what you look for is what you see. And so what you're trying to make work will. I mean, it won't always. Again, the fortunate part, I'm grateful. But I think I believe in that. Like, if I'm looking for the good in people, if I'm looking for opportunities, you're more apt to find them or see it than you know, if you're not. I'm talking
Mm.
way too much, aren't I? I'm
You
just
are doing great. Thank
spewing.
you. Keep talking. That's the whole point. People want to hear from you, not me.
That's not
This is
true.
good.
I know that's not true.
I'm telling you, I'm getting lost. You talking about something you were nervous. I was nervous. I'm like, wait a minute, this is uh. um so I think what brings me and why I asked that question is because you took some time off But even when you took time off, you stayed active by doing 5Ks. You did something. You were always moving.
Hmm.
And you made sure that that was a part of, I'm going to use maybe another trendy word, your well-being.
That's a
Making
good
sure that
one.
you had some good well-being and your wellness was at the forefront, even though you took a step back so that you could take care of your family. And a lot of women do this. Like this is a Mother's Day episode, right? We're honoring um, moms having to ultimately take that sacrifice, and usually it is the mom doing that.
Hmm.
But you started when you came back to sport, and I don't know if you came back a little bit before and then did your first Iron in 2010, but it's a 20-year gap, if my math is correct. It's a 20-year.
Yeah, yeah. When I didn't have kids or I had moved to New York, um, I don't know. There was a whole series like the Bud Light series of triathlons, and that was like in Connecticut and I don't know, maybe Delaware, but in New York there were a lot of racing opportunities, and I think also in New York, particularly the second time I joined CRCA, and at that time, which would have been 1996, um, they started forming teams. So I was a member of Sony Music's team. Like each team had its group of sponsors, and each team would race as a team, train as a team, etc. So that was super fun, and like I think in some regards, to answer your earlier question too, I mean, I grew up with brothers, so we were always and outside like that generation. So if it was football or soccer or basketball or running or hide and go seek or whatever, yeah, it was always movement. And then in New York, I had this office job. And so the opposite of that, and living on the Upper East Side, I could walk, 4 blocks over, and there's Central Park, which is just a playground. Like it's my one of my favorite parts of or one of my favorite places on the planet because it's like a little piece of country in the city. And so you're racing your bike or you're running around, and then on Saturday mornings were the bike races, and on Sunday mornings where typically there was a run race. Like, sign me up every time. Like, there it is. I roll out of my bed and I go race and like see this gorgeous, surrounded by the city, but you're in the little piece of country. And yeah, so it was fun. But yeah, when we moved to Washington, it was a little, I didn't have Central Park anymore. I gained 5 pounds right off the bat. And then even before pregnancy, because you're not like, it's not a walking city either. But once I had, but I had Taylor actually, we moved when Taylor was like just a year, little over a year. My husband's firm gave us a jogger stroller, like as a baby gift for Taylor, and you can't put the baby in there until they have their neck muscles. Like the neck muscles come in about 4 months, and I was dying to take that around Central Park, and Taylor like put her in the stroller. I remember the first day, and I got halfway around. So I'm like 3 miles into the 6 miles. I am the farthest point from our house or home, and she did not want to be in that stroller. So there I am, carrying her in one arm and pushing the stroller with the other for the other 3 miles. But which is sort of the story that should have been the omen or the signal to me, like, she's happy to be out there, but don't put her in the stroller. But yeah, and then when we moved to Washington, I had our son Jack, and we had a national park right across the street from us. So we would go running on trails, and the kids and I would do these little challenges. And one summer it was, we would first have a little breakfast, then we go for a run, and then they could get a second breakfast, after the run or whatever. But yeah, we took advantage and it was fun. And then we started doing races, which they loved. And, it goes on from there. But it becomes, it wasn't the environment, it wasn't the community that triathlon is, but it was still fun, right? Particularly for kids. Now I know I'm talking too much.
You're
Your
doing
turn.
good. You're doing great. Because that little story, it just shows like because you were active, like you produced someone who saw you being active at such a young age and now can perform. So you ran or you walk, ran, tried so that she could soar, right?
Oh, oh,
Um, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but that's what came to
yeah.
mind. And so I was committed to it because I had already said it out my mouth. I was like, I am committed to what I just said, even if it sounds crazy.
And did
Um,
you see I nodded? I was trying to make you feel
yes,
good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. No, she
Oh,
came. I mean, I remember Taylor. Somebody, I think Jack took a picture, and I'm running the Marine Corps Marathon, and she's handing me a gel. Like the picture is she's on the roadside handing me the gel, and she's probably, oh, I could probably figure out the year. It was not long. She was maybe 6, 7, 8, and I remember her, like, so we all go home, and and she's like, I did not like that. And I'm like, what was wrong? And I really appreciated you being out there. And she's like, I do not want to be on the side. I don't. I want to be running. I want to be in the race. I don't want to watch you race anymore. I want to be in the race. And that was unprompted. I take no credit for Taylor's her whole career. None. I mean, she was her counselor in high school said she was a one woman army. Like she was on a mission. She was going to accomplish said mission, and yeah, she didn't. And from then on, like, I still did a bunch of races and marathons and whatnot, but more and more I included her. And then she set the course of her, like she set a plan. I want to do this triathlon, I want you to ride next to me, and then I want to do this triathlon, and the whole thing. And Jack was physical as well, but yeah. And then I did Ironman Lake Placid in 2010. So she would have been 12 and he was 10. And they did not go because they had a swim meet that same weekend. So a friend came with me. And yeah, I would say it's not an exaggeration to say it was life changing. Like just the challenge and the accomplishment and the whole thing, like just my head explodes. Yeah. So that got there. I answered your question. We got to 2010.
so it's funny because Taylor was on the podcast in 2023, December 27th. I think she's episode number, let's see, hmm, 98 maybe. Anyway,
Oh, she was
she
born
talks
98.
about it was
Just to
meant to
help you
be. It
remember
was meant to be. Who knew?
it.
It was meant to be. But she talks about being at Marine Corps Marathon. That was one of her memories of being around the sport. And but she didn't say that she didn't want to be on the sidelines. But that's only, you would remember her saying that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because shortly thereafter she did her own race and she had done her own Ironman, but had never done a full marathon on her own. But she recalled yours. Like she recalled being there with you. So I think she might not have wanted to be on the sidelines anymore, but she looked up. I feel like she looks up to you or looked up to you. So 2010, Lake Placid, you are there with your friend. What was
Mhm.
that like? Because Lake Placid it's hilly. We don't have those type of hills in DC. So what was that like for you to train and to go and do your first long distance course?
Oh my God. It was so excellent. The swim. I mean, have you ever seen Lake Placid? Like the course?
I have swam in Mirror Lake. It is phenomenal.
It
Yes.
is. It's awesome. Yeah, so the swim was amazing. And so big confession. Whenever I hear the Star Spangled Banner, I cry. And I remember we were in water and I had my goggles on and I wasn't filling them up. Like that would be ridiculous. But I was so moved. And I thought, like, it made the day, like, it's not like every race doesn't start with that, but it just, for some reason, I was moved by that. But then the swim, then it's a long transition, which my coach had well prepared me for. But I remember being out on the bike, gorgeous day, gorgeous, gorgeous course. And I just remember thinking to myself, sort of out loud, I am so happy right now. Like it was fantastic. And every once in a while, like just like in a marathon, like you end up sort of near someone and like there were all these Snickers bars on the ground. I don't know why. But I'm like, oh, do those look as tempting to you as they do to me? And he looks over and he's like, I was thinking the same thing. Do you think they're run over? Like, do you think they licked them? Like, do you think we could have them? And then you move on. But they're like those little interactions of humanity. But then I ran the race that I wanted and I finished and I remember not being sore or in pain or anything. I was just so happy. Um, yeah, it was great. And my friend Allison was there. My family moved around a lot, and the last place we moved was to Buffalo, New York. And she was my across the street neighbor. And yeah, we've been pals ever since. Like that was fifth grade. And she came with me, and she was fantastic. So yeah, it was fun. Did I answer your question?
You did. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And
I get lost.
since 2010, since 1990, 2010, you've gone on to do so many races and coach. And I'm curious to find, when did it set in that you preferred longer distances? Or do you still do all the distances now in equal measure?
I still do all the distances. Yeah, I like them all for different reasons. I mean, they're all different challenges, and we call it the same sport. It's all triathlon, but I mean, they're different. I mean, it's the same as running, right? 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. It's not the same, but it's yeah. I mean, they're each different. They're challenging in different ways, but yeah, no, and to answer your implied question before you ask it, no, I'm just kidding. That I became a coach because I enjoyed it so much. I appreciated the help I had gotten, both in the camp and from my coach. Like I recognize I couldn't have done it without them. Yeah, so I wanted to give back to the sport for sure. And I coached from 2012 till like 3 years ago. I mean, I'm still helping people, but not officially as coach. Yeah.
I was not going to ask you that, but I'm glad that you did. Go ahead. And I was going to ask it eventually, but that's why you're so good at this interview thing, because you're like helping me. And so now my brain is like, so I was going somewhere, but I love it. You're keeping me on my toes, Leslie. You're keeping me on my toes.
Thank you for saying that.
So
I'm sorry.
no, this is perfect. You coach,
Hmm.
and what's one of your fondest memories of coaching because you wanted to give back? Um, I don't think, like, I knew you coached, but I wasn't sure for how long, and that it was, some people coach for different reasons. And so, what is one of the your fondest memories of coaching?
There's so many. I mean, it's it is like I love helping people achieve their goals and I would say, wow, that's a toughie. So I had one athlete. He wanted to break 10 hours. We did that. I had this, he's a saint. His name is Jonathan Terrell in DC. And he was donating. His goal was to raise $100,000 to donate to Children's Hospital, to the mental health wing, or to help build the mental health wing. And so he ran 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And coaching him through that was like, I mean, the beauty of being a coach is I get to appreciate someone else's journey. And I mean, we were just an absolute team, like sort of experimenting. And he did it and did it fantastically. So that was joyous on so many levels. And then there was a woman who approached him. She, at the time, she was an ICU nurse at Sloan Memorial Kettering for pediatrics, so kids who had cancer. Deirdre, was a nurse, and she was getting her MBA, and she decided she wanted to do that as well. And so Jonathan helped sponsor her, and like just amazing feats. She would run to work carrying her backpack, um, to get the miles in. And she not only did what do they call it? They call it something different now, but it's like the World Marathon Challenge. She won. She won that year, which was super duper exciting. So those are definitely highlights. But I had an athlete, Kate. She was awesome. Yeah, I mean, like it's a professional relationship where the lines are so blurred between like friendship and support, and it's a job, but it didn't feel like a job. But yeah.
Another way that you give back to sport, not just in coaching, but um, I mentioned race directing and then being on the board of USAT board of directors, which is a little newer. But race directing, like I'm trying to figure out when you sleep because you race at a high level. You were a coach for a very long time. You're a race director, and you are also now in USAT, but you are also a professor. You've done a lot. Um, so can you
Not
talk a
all at
little
the
bit
same
about being a
time.
race director?
Sure. The race director is
True.
an asterisk because I had to officially become a race director in order to help co lead a clinic. Kim Romanchuk and I, if you've heard of Daniel Romanchuk, do you know? Daniel used to race para triathlon, and then he decided he became just a marathoner. He's won Boston, I think,
Hmm.
twice, and New York. Anyway, Kim, at that point, Daniel was still involved with triathlon, with Paratri, and Kim, his mom, and I put together a clinic in New Jersey with Advent Health at the time, and they were super generous with their facilities. And then we brought in, what's his name, Molino. Like we brought in all these other professional paratris and accomplished ones, and we did like a glove making clinic for when they're doing the hand cycle. And we did all these things, but in order to make it, I guess, like, well, insured but sanctioned by USAT, I had to have the title or become a race director. But aside from that, I did not direct races. So maybe I shouldn't even say that one. It's sort of a misnomer. The clinic was a huge success. We ended up having 15 athletes, which for para triathletes, they're all over like they're very spread out. So it was great, and USAT supported us with scholarships for their travel and all that. Yeah, and then having sort of, I was also, what did they call it? like I was on the regional committee for the Mid Atlantic when the USAT had the regional offices. Yeah, so when a spot like opened up for the opportunity to be on the board, I wanted to raise my hand. You have to be nominated, and then you're voted in. But it was funny. That was sort of an interesting exercise for me. I definitely wanted to help out. I wanted to, you know, be a part of USAT from a different perspective. But one of the things in the application is that you have to, there was some sort of essay. And if you get on the board, what's going to be your focus? I'm like, oh wow, I'm multi-focused, which is the opposite of focused. Um, but more and more, I coached. When I was coaching, I also coached youth and juniors, in part like to build a squad or sort of a community in DC, also to support Taylor. But we had Paige Lester and who was also a national champion. And anyways, it was a nice group of kids. But I realized the importance of introducing the sport to children. So in my essay, I thought, oh, I don't even know like how that works, like, and so I researched children. I won't go through my search words, but it was like children, triathlon, etc. And I found essentially there were two studies total of bringing children into triathlon, and they were both out of New Zealand. And what they found in those studies was number one, the younger you bring them in, the longer they stay. But number two, the trickle down or the cascading effects were huge, where you bring in, let's say, ideally like a 5-year-old into triathlon. The 5-year-old will stay longer than the 7-year-old, 8-year-old, etc. Right? But the 5-year-old can't drive to the practices. The 5-year-old isn't going to do grocery shopping. The 5-year-old isn't going to buy their own clothes and all that. So it really brings in the family. And what they saw was that families got involved. And when there's multiple families, you're building this community, but also like the fact that, call it the 5-year-old. Now, maybe the parents were already involved and that's why they wanted the 5-year-old to, join in. But also it brought in more people in general, right? And that's also a beauty of triathlon where, so and so is at a school doing triathlon and somebody else hears about that and they want to try that too. And then the moms, they want to try that too, and on and on. But yeah, so that was the essay I submitted. And I still try to keep an eye on the kids aspect of triathlon because I just think it's super important, not only for health and, back to your word, well-being, but I just think it's because triathlon's such a community, that's a bonus, right? Like if you're not going to a church or you're not part of whatever makes that community, maybe triathlon is that glue that holds people together, or the magnet that draws them to it.
When asked why people are a part of the sport, 90% say community, because community is it's that base. And we aren't meant to be on islands alone, although people love to be on their own island, but we're meant to be in community with others. And that's one thing triathlon does right, especially with it being such a resource rich sport. And when people don't have anything, they can lean on their community and typically find everything they need, even if they need to borrow it. I was announcing a race this weekend down at General Smallwood, and it was a beginner, and she was freaking out because someone mistakenly picked up her wetsuit. And she's like, "It's not mine. It's not mine." I said, "It's okay. I understand you're upset, but I guarantee you're going to have that wetsuit by next week, because people in this sport are not going to keep what's yours when they like, it's just not. Before we even left, the person was like, I'm going to send it to you. We had already gotten in contact with them and they were going to
Oh
send
my
it. That's community. Community takes care of each other. And that's what this sport does. And so I just wanted to just echo those sentiments because it's so true. In thinking about your community, because you're also a part of the DC Tri Club, and not just the club, but the DC Tri Club elite team. How has being a part of DC Tri Club helped to evolve you as an athlete? And how do you get to help mentor others in the club based off of your experience and wisdom?
So maybe this is like the race director. I've actually stepped down from DC Tri Elite because I now live in Boulder. So I want to give someone in DC an opportunity to be there. But DC Tri is the club. I saw that you had the president on like a couple weeks ago. Like the mission of that group is just nothing short of amazing, and they get it done every year. They have roughly 100 new to triathlon triathletes. And what the elite team did was to give back to the club. And because, um, we're racing on behalf of DC Tri, but also like most of the DC Tri elite team have been racing for, 10 plus years. We would host 2 consecutive weekend clinics for everyone, and we'd help them with swimming and biking and transition and running and just the whole. I used to do the nutrition talks, um, and it was just awesome. Like it's so like it was everyone's opportunity to give back to the sport and pay it forward. And then you see how many are, for lack of a better term, converted. Like they're part of it. They get it. There's a comfort level. And for the club itself, it's self-sustaining that you bring these people in and again to overuse the word community, but also it's just, I mean, I don't know. It's just people seeing people, right, and helping each other out. It's yeah. So that was I was a member of the team 6 years, I think. Yeah, and always, and I would like kudos to our mutual friend Greg Hawkins because the New to Triathlon program race in Colonial Beach, he sets aside separate like bike racks for the team. And last year, like I was surrounded by new people. It was just so fun. It was me back in Chicago through them, right? Like, oh, what should I do? And, should I put my shoes in the pedals? Like, not now. not, not if you haven't done this before, but just so, like, it's so refreshing, right? It's not these, like, it's not a race where everybody just thinks that they're the cat's meow. It's just earnestness and like this like eagerness and excitement. It's just raw power. It's unbelievable. Yeah, and then you see them at the end, like, how did it go? Oh my God. And then they painfully take you through their entire race, but that's part of it too. Then you could actually you could rest assured they are triathletes. Like, oh, really? Then what did you do? Then you took the left turn. And then you took in a gel. I'm kidding, but a little bit not. Too much detail.
It's you got to get all the details out when they're fresh. I love that sensation of seeing people like this weekend. It was just again, I, I for the first time, I think I had one of those moments where somebody was taking me through all. I was like, yeah, like oh,
It's
we do that. It's
amazing,
so
isn't
funny. It just
it?
I had one of those moments. So like literally this weekend. And shout out to Greg Hawkins. He is
Oh,
with
he's
Kinetic Multisport. He's the race
awesome.
director, and we like to call him El Jefe. He's amazing. I have that picture that we all took at
Oh
Nationals last
yeah.
year. It was like the best picture right outside the hotel. But he does it. It's a first time beginner, and a lot of race directors who take the time to set up first timers really don't know how they're making that first time experience so much more enjoyable, and it allows them
Memorable.
to be in a safe space where they can like just be. So shout out to them.
Yeah, agreed.
Talking about full circle moments as we wrap up,
Oh,
what does
full.
it take to stay in this sport this long and still love it? What would you say it takes, and how should one pace themselves?
Oh, I think it's so individual. For me, it's like multifaceted, that I'm curious, so I want to see what I can still do. As the difference between being a 27-year-old and now is huge in terms of my body. You don't recover as quickly and all that, but um, no, it's just, it still brings me joy. Like, I guess if you reach a point where it doesn't anymore, that's time to say goodbye. But it's still, and I have to say, so last year in Hawaii, I had coffee with a bunch of people that I have either been racing with and have never met, and now I have, and or people like I know in the sport, like Julie Dunkel, if you know her, like we had coffee for 2 hours, right? Like we had a lot of catching up to do, but it was the first time we ever met in person. But I just remember 2014. I went to the like World Championships. They were in Edmonton, and Taylor was there too, which is partly why I went. And all they set up the racks by country, and so it was all the women from the United States, and then it went on. And the guy came over and had to clear us out of transition area. He's like, I'm sorry, but we have to start the race because we were so busy talking and sharing things. Like, I had more in common with some of these women than I did from my friends at home, right? Like we all traveled to the race, we all trained for the race, we're doing the race, we're all excited for the race, we're nervous for the race. Like none of us fit into our kits. Like whatever it was just, yeah. So to answer your question, I just think, like, if you find your why, and if your why continues to be that, or if it evolves, like, yeah, triathlon is still the answer. That didn't really answer the question. I gotta just,
I
did you
mean,
see how
the
I
why
toned it
part
down
does.
though? That's the end of my
I
answer.
did. And the fact that you mentioned not fitting in your kids, oh my gosh, that is hilarious because that's a real part of it too. And
Yeah.
final question before we go into rapid fire. I did want this to be the focus on you, and because this is a Mother's Day special edition, in a perfect world, it would have been both you and Taylor here, but I know that we've tried for several years to make that happen and it just
Years.
hasn't. But you, what is it like watching Taylor perform at the highest level from your perspective, especially being a mom who also is, you are at the highest level. Like you are always in the top of your age group, if not coming in first at nationals, on different Ironman courses. What is that like for you?
Oh wow. Okay. I was gonna try not to cry. um, it's it's unbelievable. Like literally, it is hard to get my wrap my brain around. I mean, I'm so incredibly happy for her. I am proud of her. I am awed by her. Like she's just a force to be reckoned with. But again, I said it earlier, I take no credit, but I'm excited for her. It's often hard to watch because I wish I could go out there and help her. Not that she needs it most of the time, but yeah, I mean, it's honestly there was a point. So we were heading to Paris to watch her race in the Olympics, and friends of mine are like, "Oh my God, are you so excited?" And I'm like, "I'm still processing that she qualified." Right? Like it's just not, it's so beyond like any hopes or dreams you have for your child. Yeah. And yeah, it's incredible. And my son's doing the same, but in law. Like he's at law school, like he's pursuing his dream and at the top of his game. And so it's all exciting. But yeah, I mean, to have triathlon as a shared sport with Taylor is like the best gift ever.
Hmm. Well, happy Mother's Day, Leslie. You deserve it.
Thank
And happy
you.
Mother's Day to everyone. Shout out to that. Um,
Thank
Now
you.
let's get into a little bit of rapid fire, a little fun, a
Oh
little,
God.
let's take
Okay.
you back
Okay.
in, take those, you just have some dampness, what do they call it? My eyes are sweating. It's that sweat. Just wipe the sweat away and let's get right into it.
Okay.
But that was beautiful. It was beautiful. Um, Early morning workouts or evening sessions?
Oh, early morning.
Favorite race destination?
Ooh. Um, Marbella.
Mm,
That was spectacular.
wow. Pool swims or open water?
Mm, both.
Because you are a swimmer, I would like for you to share a little bit more. Why pool swims? Why did you say both?
Um, I love them both for different reasons. I love open water swim, because there's no lane line. You're fighting the elements. It's like an open field. And pool, like I love being able to count and keep track. And I mean, just the sight of a pool, even the chlorine smell is happy place for me. You too? You grew up swimming, didn't you?
Yeah, I love it. Hmm?
What was your Didn't you grow up swimming? Yeah. So which one?
I
What would
did
your
grow up
answer be?
swimming.
Pool or open water?
I think it would have to be pool.
And why?
Um, I've had a love-hate relationship with the pool and mainly stemming around like, hair. But these days, you can just put on a cap like this and go with it. Especially when you're swimming 2 or 3 times a week. That was not the case back in the day. We didn't have to. We had to do braids, and braids weren't as evolved as they are now. And so I would say the pool. And recently, I couldn't swim for a couple of months and just got back in the pool maybe about a month and a half ago and was like, this is where I get to drown all my problems. Like,
Oh,
I
oh,
can
I
go
love
into the
that.
pool with a lot. By the end of my session, it's like, okay, I'm clear. And then I stay in the pool and I float. Like, so after every swim session, I sit and I just float for like 3 to 5 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. But the pool is where I handle all the drama of life. And not having that for a couple of months, I was like, oh yeah, you needed that in your life. You love the pool more than you've given yourself the credit to love the pool.
Oh, that's
So yeah.
interesting. I ran a marathon one time, and sometimes when you run, you end up like pacing with a person. And this guy was from the
Hmm.
NIH, and we were talking about a variety of things. And he said, when you swim, it's really one of the only times that the left side of the brain communicates with the right and vice versa. And there's some of that going on with most athletics, but he said, particularly in swimming, it's happening more so. And he said, and that's why oftentimes swimmers are like, they can work through problems, or he said, swimmers are usually smarter, but also that it has a therapeutic, a therapeutic and a meditative. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know on the smart front.
I'm just saying, Leslie, you keep filling my cup up over here, girlfriend. We're going to be all right. The other sport that I took up when I couldn't swim was jump roping. And jump roping has that same effect of working with both their brains. I was like, I have so much clarity. What's happening? So jump roping is very similar with that.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got me off track, Leslie. I don't even know which question I'm supposed to ask next.
Okay, I got it. Water. Okay.
Yes. High cadence or low cadence? You like to just pound it and grind it out?
Yes. Low cadence every time.
Low cadence for you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hills, rolling hills, or flat races? Which do you prefer and why?
Rolling hills or hills. It's usually nicer scenery. And it mixes up the race. It mixes up everyone, for better or for worse. Less cheating. How about that?
Okay. That's a good, thank you for that. Final question. We don't let anyone leave the podcast without answering. Do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
Pee on the bike. But, that's where hills come in handy. Because you can't pedal and pee. So the downhill or a nice glide, that's when you do it. Which, by the way, only recently did I realize how obvious it is when you're peeing. Because I was behind this guy who was peeing, and he snapped out his right foot. So I guess so it could go down his right leg or something. But it was all over the place. And I thought, oh my God, I thought it was so subtle. It's like a big sprinkler.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. This has been a true joy. And look, you had nothing to be nervous about. You are fantastic
You're so
at interviewing.
nice.
So I'm very grateful that you joined me today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to see
But
you.
with that
and
said,
chat
we have
with
the
you.
same.
Sorry.
Thank you. We have the saying on Try Beginner's Luck. Whenever you try, you always win. And I believe that to be true. If you've loved this podcast and you love what we're doing, tap in, subscribe. We're on all the major platforms, including YouTube and Substack. It would be our joy for you to follow us there and also on social media, where you can be able to follow us. And just know we have some really cool things planned as we enter into the summer, so you do not want to miss that. With that said, my name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines. And for today, we are out. Peace. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.